That would strengthen DUI laws in Maryland is headed to Governor Wes Moore's desk.
That legislation, passed in the final hours by Maryland lawmakers, would close what activists call a loophole in Noah's Law. That is the legislation passed back in 2016 in honor of Noah Liotta. The Montgomery County police officer was killed by a drunken driver as he conducted a DUI enforcement back in 2015. Our Rafael Sanchez Cruz caught up with Noah's dad in Olney to discuss how this change will make Maryland roads safer.
Noah's father, Richard Liotta, tells me this latest bill is about making Noah's Law whole.
It was down to the wire.
A 6-year-long battle is finally over for Richard Liotta.
I was happy. I was relieved. I was sad, and there was some crying.
In 2016, Maryland lawmakers passed Noah's Law, a legislation that requires convicted DUI drivers to install ignition interlocks in their car. With this device, a driver would have to pass a breath test in order to start their car.
70% of the time when a person gets an interlock, they don't repeat.
However, originally, the legislation would have required all drivers arrested for a DUI to get an ignition interlock. That last-minute change to limit the device to only include convicted drunk drivers left what advocates say is a loophole in Noah's Law.
We know that 60% of the people get PBJs.
PBJ is probation before judgment. That's what DUI offenders in Maryland get if they're not convicted, which means they aren't required to get the interlock device.
I'm okay with leniency. I'm okay with that. But make it conditioned on the interlock.
The bill passed last night requires ignition interlocks for 180 days for people placed on probation for driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Liotta says it should not have taken this long. He says what's gotten him through is thinking of all the victims that have lost their lives to impaired driving, including his son, Officer Noah Liotta, who had volunteered to be part of Montgomery County's Holiday Alcohol Task Force enforcement when he was struck and killed by a drunk driver.
I'm happy that Noah will be on patrol 24/7 and saving more lives. That's what I'm happy about.
Governor Wes Moore is poised to sign this bill. Once it is signed, the law would go into effect on October 1st. In Olney, Maryland, Rafael Sanchez Cruz, WUSA 9.
The Maryland General Assembly passed a lot of legislation during its 90-day session, and here are some of the other bills lawmakers gave their stamp of approval. First, they approved a package of juvenile justice reforms, and the changes are aimed at accountability and rehabilitation for young people who commit crimes. Lawmakers also greenlit a measure to create a grant program in the state's health department, and that would help abortion clinics pay for security improvements. The General Assembly also approved a measure that would allow judges to shield their personal information online, and that is in direct response to the shooting death of a judge in his driveway last year.